All right, folks, I am back here with your last video to get you moved towards the finish line with your designs. Today, we are covering layout, and I'm going to remind you of some of the things related to your viewports and finishing things up. Before I do that, I want to remind you of some things you might be dealing with today in model space. Here is a hypothetical drawing. Let's pretend it is more complete than it is, which is totally fine. You are going to be adding street trees, lamp posts, any other unique features you might like. I just want to remind you, if you type insert, you're going to get um, blocks over here that you can insert symbols of any kind for adding to your drawing. The first thing I'm going to say before you do anything is make sure that the check mark next to insertion point is checked and add a check mark next to scale and change that to uniform scale. You have several options for symbols. You can also use the symbols from Project 2. To do that, to add those in, you would download them again. You can go to the Project 2 files on Moodle, and you can bring them in by clicking this little shape feature at the top and navigating to where you download that information. So as a reminder, you can always bring in additional symbols if you would like. I also want to remind you how to bring in symbols. So we have insertion point checked, we have uniform scale checked. I'm going to click on, actually, I'm going to change my layer to, I might make a layer called trees. I'm going to change my layer, and then I'm going to click on the symbol that I want to bring in. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to click. And then I can scale it from there. Um, if you want to make a lot of trees quickly, I just want to remind you, so I'm going to close this. I want to remind you of the copy feature. So copy, I select what I want to copy. When I have selected those things, I say enter. I click a base point in the middle, and then I can turn this into the crazy copy machine. I can also select multiple things, say copy. Again, click a base point, and I can add a forest very quickly. So that is true for any of the symbols, right? I'm going to save this here. All right. So you might also notice that I don't have topo lines in here. You might want to get rid of your topo lines. If you haven't gotten rid of your topo lines yet, if you type in xref, you're going to see something here called topo. If you right click on that and say detach, you can get rid of that reference. So I have all of this information here. The last thing I want to remind you about is layer properties. If I hover over a layer, it will tell me the name of that layer. This is important because certain things you're going to want to get rid of. We don't want this random text appearing. We might want some of the WOTUS to appear. We might want to get rid of other things like the flags. And so if you hover over these things, you can figure out what layer they are on. There we go, X wetlands flags. So in this case, to turn layers on or off, you can always use the little light bulb. If you want to turn more features on or off, you can bring up the Layer Properties Manager. And from there, you can, my recommendation is to turn everything off, and then you can turn select things back on. To select everything, you're going to say Control A, and if you click this, it will turn everything off. And then you can go in and turn on select layers. Another option is to sort of click through here. You can always delete layers if you're not using them, right? That's an option. But we want to make sure that you focus in on just your site. And as a reminder, as you're drawing things, remember to keep adding layers, right? You can keep making new layers based on things that you're drawing. For instance, your trees over here, you might keep trees, but you're probably not keeping the entire area. So be sure that you are focusing in and creating your own layers, especially if you're keeping a large part of your site as trees. Make sure to draw those, make sure to annotate it, make sure to add text. As a reminder, dtext, specify the point, specify the rotation, and we can get text from there. Enter, escape. Mtext also works. All right. Um, dtext, specify the start point, specify. Okay, good. So once you have, I would actually say before you have finalized your drawing here, I want you to make sure that you have your layout set up. So I'm going to go to layout one. We can always create new layouts. That's totally fine. Um, and I want to remind you of a couple things in the layouts tab. First, we want to set our paper size. You're going to go down here to layout one, right click and say page setup manager. For layout one, you're going to say modify. You want to set the name of your printer or plotter to AutoCAD PDF high quality. You want to set your paper size to Arch E, our big paper size. And for now, we can leave everything else, and that's totally fine. You can scale line weights, see what that does, right? You can play around with some of this, and I'm going to say okay and close. And that might make your paper size up and your viewport look really small. That's okay. This feature here, this is what's called our viewport. This lets us see the drawing. If I double click in here, I can change this. I can zoom in, I can zoom out, right? If I double click out here, it takes me back into the paper space. So I can enter my model and I can exit my model. Um, this viewport is on a layer. As I select that right now, if I go to home, I can see what layer it is on. I can always move it to a different layer if I want to. So if you don't see that outline, there's a good chance you turn that layer off. If I click on this, I can move it to whatever size I want, right? I can size this to whatever I want. You want to make sure that you can see your entire drawing on here. You want to make sure that you can see the entire site. So that's something you're going to need to play with a little bit. And as a reminder, you can use some of these zoom features. So all I do is go down here, zoom window. I could actually draw a window and have it zoom in exactly on that site. So again, use your resources. There's lots of ways to figure these things out. I'm showing you some of the main ones that I think might be helpful for you. The other reason I'm going to have you turn layers off eventually, you choose which layers to turn off, is you probably want to put your legend in somewhere. And this is a really good spot for a legend. We don't need to see those existing properties. We want the general design. So as a reminder, you can turn layers off by going to Home and turning specific components off as you go. All right. So once you have your layout set and you have your viewport, you feel good about using that. I want to remind you under layout tools, you're going to want to add a north arrow and you're going to want to add a scale bar. Play around with this, talk to your colleagues, figure out how this works, right? You guys are good at figuring out how things work. Trust your gut. And if something doesn't work, you can delete it and do something different. You are also going to bring in your um, title blocks. I want everything on a title block. So go ahead and pause this video and you want to go download your title block. If you like somebody else's title block more, you can ask and see if they'd let you use their title block. So go ahead and do that. Pause this video and get your title block ready because I'm going to show you two ways to bring it in. All right. Next, so I have downloaded my title block and it is in my downloads. You can't see this, but the first thing I'm going to do is find that title block, the DWG file. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it into my Project 3 folder on my desktop. So I just want to make sure I've got it somewhere that I can access. I'm going to make that go down. I've got my desktop Project 3. And I am copying and pasting it into that folder because you want to make sure your title block goes with your Project 3 folder. All right, so to bring in a title block, you have two different options. First, my encouragement is if your title block is done in white, which I know many people's are, you're going to want to first change this. So you're going to go to Open, And you're going to find your title block. Mine's on the desktop. So if I go to desktop, I go to my project 3 folder. I'm going to see my title block in there and I'm going to say open. If that title block is in white, select the whole thing, make a new layer, move it to that layer. So I'm going to make mine bright red for now. I don't recommend choosing bright red um, for your title block. So actually, I'm going to change that. We're not going to make it bright red. I lied. We're going to make it black. But let's say, okay, I'm going to go to layer properties. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call this title block. And I'm going to make the color black. Okay, cool. All right. Then I'm going to select this whole thing and I'm going to move it to my layer called title block. Cool. All right. Two ways you can do this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save this and I'm going to close it down. Two ways we can bring in our title block. So when we bring in a title block, we do something called xref-ing. So you're going to type in xref. That brings up this file references tab again. You're going to see the name of our file in there right now. This is your main file. We want to add something new to that. So we're going to click this little thing up at the top that says attach DWG. And I'm going to again navigate to that folder. I'm going to find my title block in there and I'm going to say open. I want to make sure I have two check marks enabled, specify on screen for scale and specify on screen for insertion point. I'm going to say okay. That is going to bring in my title block. I'm going to specify where I want the bottom to be. And then I am scaling this. If this feels not so good to you, I'm going to show you another way to do this. It's a little finicky, right? It's a little finicky. All right, I'm going to say save. I'm going to say home. And it looks like it doesn't know what layer to put it on. So let's put it on a different layer. Okay. So I now have a title block. It has been brought in. You're going to want to resize your viewport so that it fits into your title block space. You can always remove the color on the outside of that if you want to. All right. So other things that I want to do. I want to maybe I want to scale this up a little bit, right? I can go to scale, again, specify my insertion point, and it's going to give you a lot more control. So if you did this the first time and you didn't like the results, remember you can always go back in and rescale. If you didn't like this process, I'm just going to delete this. See, it doesn't disappear from your xref file up here, so I'm going to say detach. Another way to bring in your title block, I am going to open my title block. And another option is to select everything and say Control C. And then over in this tab, I'm going to say Control V. And it's going to paste everything in. And again, it's a little too big, so I'm going to select everything, and then I want to deselect my viewport. So I'm going to hold down the Shift and click on that. And now I can go to Scale. I want to specify my base point, and I can scale it to my paper. My encouragement is if you're getting weird things, if it's really jumpy, turn off your snaps. All right, I'm saving again. You see how much I'm saving. Make sure you are saving. All right, this is starting to look really good. You're going to add all of the information that you want. And the last thing you're probably going to want to add is a legend. So as a reminder, you can create that in here. In layout space, you could create that in model space. It's up to you. You can still use the same features over here in layout space as in model space. So if I do dtext, I can specify the start point of my text. I can specify my rotation angle. The text is coming in really big. Oh no. Reminder, make your own feature. So if I press enter and then escape, if it's coming in too big, I can scale that text, right? I can scale that down and make sure that it's an appropriate size. Um, we can use text for multiple layers. All of those are options. So my encouragement is to play around with these different options, and you want to make sure that you have everything finalized today. The last thing that I want to show you is how to plot. I just want to remind you of this. You can get a plot by clicking on the printer up here or by typing in plot. That's going to pop up the same information that we saw before. There's a lot of options. Try them out. Play around with things. What to plot is the most important part here. So you have 4 different options. If one does not work, try a different one. That is my biggest encouragement. I'm going to say extents. I'm going to say center the plot. I'm going to say fit to paper. And then I'm going to say you always want to click preview. You want to make sure that it looks good. If it doesn't look good, you're going to X out. If it does look good, you're going to go up to the little printer here, and it's going to let you save this. Go to your desktop. Make sure your last name is somewhere in that draft and export it. If that option that we just used didn't work for you, try out something different. Extents works pretty well. Center the plot. I'm going to say, oh, actually, let's try window. So window will actually let you draw a window that shows what you want to see. I'm going to say preview. That's looking pretty good. So if one of these options doesn't work for you because Civil 3D is finicky, try a different one. At this point, my hope is that you're able to start to troubleshoot, right, some of these issues that you run into. Try out one of the options. The worst thing that happens if you try something is it doesn't work, and then try something else. By the end of today, in order to get points, I need to see that your layout is set. I need to see that you have a title block brought in, and I need to see that you have a north arrow and scale bar on your drawing. That is how you get some points for today. Your final rough draft is due. This is posted on Moodle, and this is specified on the assignment sheet for today. So you have time to work on this. My encouragement is before you start drawing, before you start doing anything else, figure out your layout situation, because I am here to answer these questions now. All right, folks, good luck. Have fun.